On a freezing Detroit night, a homeless veteran stepped out of the shadows when he heard a woman scream behind a gas station. 10 seconds later, she was on the ground. Two men stood over her, and the veteran charged straight at them. Knowing he might die before we start this story, tell me, where in the world are you watching from? We love seeing how far these stories travel. And if you enjoy our stories, please consider subscribing to our channel and don't forget to hit the hype button. Cold wind cut through the abandoned lots of River Rouge, Michigan, the kind of November chill that made concrete feel like ice. Under the rusted skeleton of the Jefferson Avenue overpass lived Raymond Hawk Delaney, a 56-year-old Army veteran who had survived Bosnia, Kosovo, and 2 tours in Iraq, yet somehow could not survive civilian life. His cardboard and tarp shelter sat pressed against a graffitied column, surrounded by a few plastic crates holding everything he owned: a sleeping bag, 2 shirts, canned food from the mission downtown, and a battered rucksack with patches from a life most people never asked about. Hawk had spent 8 years without a home. PTSD stalked him through every night. Sudden noises made him jump hard enough to spill his coffee, and crowds pushed him into fight-or-flight spirals that made shelters unbearable. Yet even broken and exhausted, something in him stayed disciplined, boots lined neatly, jacket folded, head shaved weekly using a cracked mirror, and a blade he kept sharper than his memories. At 10:42 p.m., he headed toward the Shell station to buy cheap noodles with the last $3 in his pocket. He never imagined he'd walk into someone else's nightmare. As Hawk crossed the dimly lit lot behind the gas station, he heard it sharp, panicked, unmistakable. A woman's scream. Not confusion, not surprise. Fear, real fear. His body reacted before his mind caught up. His heartbeat slowed, his senses sharpened, and muscle memory from a lifetime of combat snapped awake like a switch. He saw her near a silver SUV, a young woman, maybe mid-30s, pinned between the bumper and 2 men in dark hoodies. One held her wrists, the other ripped at her purse. Her wedding ring glinted under the flickering street lamp as she tried to fight back, her voice hoarse from shouting. No civilians around, no clerk coming out. Cars passing on Jefferson never even slowed. Hawk could have stayed hidden, could have backed away, could have told himself it wasn't his fight, but soldiers don't do that. He strode forward. "Hey!" His voice was loud, commanding, carrying decades of authority. "Get away from her now." Both men turned. One produced a box cutter, lifting it casually like he'd used it before. Hawk exhaled. A blade didn't scare him. What scared him was the woman shaking uncontrollably behind him. The taller attacker lunged first, swinging the blade in a wide, sloppy arc intended to intimidate, not kill. Hawk shifted sideways, grabbing his wrist and twisting so sharply the man yelped. Years of Army combatives took overstance low, elbows tight, breathing steady. He slammed the attacker against the SUV, knocking the weapon loose. The second man grabbed Hawk from behind, trying to choke him. But Hawk's instincts were faster. He dropped his weight, drove his elbow into the guy's ribs, then spun, using momentum to send him sprawling onto the concrete. The woman scrambled toward her door. "Ma'am, get inside," Hawk commanded. She managed to slip into the driver's seat and slam the lock. The blade-wielding attacker recovered, furious now, and charged again, but the sudden wail of a motorcycle engine drown everything out. A Harley roared into the lot, its headlight bursting through the darkness like a spotlight. The rider threw off his helmet mid-skid, eyes wild. "Honey," the woman sobbed, pounding on the inside of her window. "Eli, he saved me. He saved me." The two attackers fled into the alley. Hawk just stood there, bleeding, breath fogging in the cold air. Eli Carter dropped to his knees beside Hawk. "Sir, are you hurt? Did they stab you?" He reached toward Hawk's jacket, but the veteran stepped back instinctively, protective, the old training still firing. "I'm fine," Hawk muttered, though a dark streak was soaking through his sleeve. "Just cuts. Nothing I haven't handled." Eli wasn't convinced. His wife, Alyssa Carter, was now clutching his arm, tears streaming down her face as she stared at the homeless veteran who'd risked everything for her. Eli recognized the posture, the discipline, the way Hawk scanned the exit points even while injured. This wasn't just a man off the streets. This was a soldier. "Sir," Eli said softly, "I'm with the Avengers Motorcycle Club Detroit chapter. My brothers are on their way. You saved my wife. We'll take care of you." Hawk shook his head. "Don't need anything. Just help your lady. I'm heading back." Alyssa grabbed his hand before he could turn away. "Please don't go. You saved my life." Hawk froze. Nobody had touched him gently in years. He didn't know how to respond. That's when the first 5 Harleys rolled in. Engines thundered into the lot until the ground felt like it vibrated. Leather vests marked with Avengers MC patches formed a protective wall around Alyssa and Hawk. Riders dismounted in Sing Kong, controlled, not reckless. Real bikers. Real brotherhood. Their sergeant-at-arms, Trudgeon Forge Mallory, stepped forward. Eli called. Said a veteran saved Alyssa from 2 punks. "Sir, can we get you medical?" Hawk stood straighter, trying to look less injured than he was. "Don't waste resources on me. I'm good." Forge scanned the blood on Hawk's shirt, the defensive stance, the hollow exhaustion in his eyes. Something in that look. Respect, not pity. Alyssa spoke before anyone else could. "His name's Hawk. He fought them. He protected me. He didn't think twice." Forge nodded firmly. "Then he's family tonight." A Harley's headlight lit Hawk's face, revealing the deep lines of someone who had carried too much, too long. Eli placed a hand on Forge's shoulder. "Brother, we owe him everything." Forge turned to the group. "Get him in the truck. We're taking him somewhere safe." For the first time in 8 years, someone set Hawk's safety above their own. They loaded Hawk into the Avengers support van with care blankets, a first aid kit, and riders forming a perimeter as if armor could keep the world outside. Forge drove. Eli rode shotgun. Alyssa squeezed Hawk's hand. At Henry Ford Hospital, they hustled him into triage. The EA smelled like antiseptic and fluorescent light, an antiseptic whirled away from the grime under the overpass. A nurse frowned at the blood, but moved fast. Stitches, an X-ray, doses of antibiotics. The rib puncture was shallow, no organ damage, but the cuts were deep enough to require 19 sutures and a short inpatient stay for observation. Hawk kept insisting he'd pay or walk out. His voice had the flat resignation of a man used to refusing help. Forge and Eli shut that down. "You're not negotiating," Forge said. "You saved my man's wife. You accept care. While Hawk slept under morphine, the Avengers clustered in a corner. Someone texted leadership. Someone else called a local veteran outreach group. News trickled out. A video Alyssa took on her phone shaky raw showed Hawk intervening. Within hours, the clip had threaded through neighborhood feeds. Men with vests started calling, asking how they could help. Brotherhood began assembling. That night, the Detroit chapter gathered in their warehouse motor oil scent, tool benches, a coffee pot burning like a beacon. Knox Chief Rains, the chapter president, listened as Forge told Hawk's story again, slower this time, letting the room feel every word. Faces under low light hardened with agreement. "We do what family does," Knox said. "Medical bills not the end. This man's sleeping under a bridge while his body heals. That stops." They debated logistics, rent assistance, short-term shelter, employment, and a long-term plan ownership if possible. Eli added, "I talked to Frank Russo at Motorola. He needs an assistant." Hawk's hands look like they can work. Real life, not charity. Knox nodded. "We'll get him in that job. But we go bigger. We'll tap Midwest chapters, the Avengers Network call in favors. We'll do housing, a truck, taxes paid. Not a handout. A life." Phones lit up as messages flew to Ohio, Indiana, and Michigan chapters. Each reply was quick yes. Count us in. Brotherhood moved from words to wire transfers, from coffee to currency, and the warehouse hummed with purpose. Over the next week, the story swelled. Alyssa posted a cleaned video of Hawk's intervention with a short message. "This man saved my life. Please help." Local reporters picked it up. The Detroit Channel ran a segment titled "Veteran Hero Saves Biker's Wife." Donations trickled into the chapter's account. $5, $500, $5,000. Word spread to chapters in Ohio and Illinois. A Tennessee crew wired funds overnight. A nonprofit for veterans offered temporary housing vouchers while the Avengers looked for permanent options. Meanwhile, Hawk refused interviews. He hated cameras, but he allowed Eli to read messages to him in the hospital bed, calls from old unit mates. A video from a man saying, "You don't forget a medic." Knox visited daily, bringing warm soup and the same steady eye that told Hawk he was seen. "You did what needed doing," Knox said quietly. "Now let us do what needs doing for you." Hawk's jaw clenched. Pride warred with gratitude. The plan solidified fast. Find a modest home near River Rouge, secure a used truck, and get Hawk an apprenticeship at Frank Russo's shop paid. Dignified work that matched his military maintenance skills. Hawk's resistance was part negotiation, part ritual. He told anyone who'd listen he did what any medic would, that he wasn't a charity case. He called it duty. Alyssa argued otherwise. "You saved my life," she insisted when she visited, clasping his hand in a hospital room lit by late afternoon slant. "Let us save yours." The Avenger brothers respected his spine. No one pushed gratitude down his throat, but they pushed opportunity. Frank Russo visited with a cuppa and a hearted, a burly man who smelled like oil and kindness. "I need a steady hand in the shop," Frank said, voice direct. "You don't have to pretend to be fixed. We'll teach you the ropes for the road ahead. Pays decent." When Hawk finally accepted the job offer, the room exhaled. Meanwhile, Knox and the fundraising team found a 3-bedroom bungalow in a quiet River Rouge neighborhood small yard. Boarded porch, good bones. The seller accepted a cash offer within days. Buyers' inspections were quick. Chapter donations covered the purchase and initial furnishings. Everything else struck. Taxes, transition fund were imminent. The brothers were turning gratitude into infrastructure. On a bitter cold December morning, they discharged Hawk. He stepped out of the hospital wrapped in a donated coat, as raw with something between fear and hope. The Avengers formed a procession, Harleys low and reverent riding him to his new doorstep in a convoy that felt like a funeral turned revival. Neighbors peeked from curtains as engines rolled up the street, chrome glinting like promise. Knox handed Hawk a set of keys, a heavy small thing that shook in his palm. "Your name's on it," Knox said. Hawk ran fingers over the house number, as if memorizing each groove. Elisa arrived carrying a casserole, eyes bright. "Welcome home," she said. Hawk stared at the living room, at the couch, the donated lamp, the new mattress with a knitted blanket tucked at the corner. He walked through slowly, touching a plate, a spoon, a towel, small things that suddenly felt enormous. Later, Frank drove up with a helmet and a small toolkit. "First paycheck's coming," Frank grinned. "We start slow. We keep it real." Hawk sat on his bed and whispered, "I don't know how to say thank you." The house, for once, said everything. Hawk's first morning inside the bungalow felt unreal. Sunlight filtered through clean curtains instead of gaps between bridge beams. For the first time in years, he woke without freezing air on his face. A donated coffee maker burbled in the kitchen. The smell hit him like a memory of base housing, overseas quiet, warm, safe. He sat at the small wooden table, hands wrapped around a steaming mug, and let the warmth swallow the tremor in his fingers. At 9 a.m., Frank pulled up in his dusty mechanic's pickup and honked once. Hawk stepped outside wearing clean jeans the chapter had bought him, moving stiffly from stitches, but determined. Frank's shop, Russo Motor and Machine, sat 5 minutes away, across from the Rouge River docks. Inside, the scent of oil and steel felt familiar, almost comforting. Frank introduced him to the crew: Leo Branson, a quiet welder, and Miles Sutton, a former Coast Guard mechanic. Both nodded with respect when Frank said, "This is Hawk. Treat him right." Hawk learned the shop rhythm, sorting parts, cleaning carburetors, prepping benches. Nothing strenuous yet, but enough to make him feel useful again. Enough to feel like a man reclaiming his footing. In between shifts, the Avengers kept showing up, not loudly, not intrusively, but in quiet, steady waves. Forge dropped off a new winter coat. A rider named Duke Halloran installed deadbolts and reinforced the back door. Another brother brought groceries, stacking canned soup and pasta in Hawk's cabinets without asking for thanks. At night, Hawk sometimes stood in the hallway, staring at framed photos the chapter had hung, landscapes, motorcycles, a simple American flag. He'd trace the edges and whisper the names of friends lost in Iraq and Kosovo, as if introducing them to his new home. PTSD didn't vanish. Sirens still made his heart race. Dreams still jolted him awake. But now, when dawn came, he wasn't alone under concrete. He was in a bed that didn't swim with cold, with people expecting him at a job he valued. Knox visited often, sitting on Hawk's porch with 2 coffees. "You settling in?" he'd ask. Hawk always answered the same, "Trying." Knox would grin. "Trying is winning, brother." For the first time in 8 years, Hawk believed That might be true. 3 weeks after Hawk moved in, Fox 32 Detroit aired a feature titled Veteran Hero Lifted by Biker Brotherhood. It wasn't sensationalized. It wasn't pitying. It was human. They showed the gas station security footage, Hawk standing between Alyssa and the attackers. They interviewed Frank at his shop. They filmed Hawk sitting on his porch, coat zipped, speaking slowly about service, loss, and duty. Then came the unexpected. The segment went national. Veteran groups, biker forums, neighborhood associations, everyone shared the clip. Donations surged again, even though the Avengers said they'd already covered everything. Chapter inboxes exploded with messages. How do we help? How do we support veterans near us? How do we build what you built? Journalists requested interviews. Fox, CNN, Midwest magazines. Hawk declined nearly all of them, but one line he spoke on camera resonated everywhere. I wasn't a hero. I was a soldier doing what soldiers do: protect whoever stands in front of us. Those words sparked a movement. Chapters in Indiana and Ohio started planning housing projects for at-risk veterans. Hawk's story had become more than a rescue. It had become a blueprint. A month after Hawk started at the shop, Frank handed him his first paycheck. Not charity. Not a stipend. A real earned paycheck with his name printed clearly across the top. Hawk stared at it longer than he meant to. His throat thickened. Frank nudged his shoulder. Frame it if you want. I did with mine. Work gave him structure again, something the army had once given and homelessness had stolen. He sanded tanks, sorted components, learned newer diagnostic software. His hands remembered the precision of field repairs on Humvees under fire. Translating that to motorcycles came naturally. The Avengers stopped by often. Miles joked the shop had become their unofficial clubhouse annex. One afternoon, Forge wheeled an erect Harley. Think you can save her? Hawk examined the bent frame, the scuffed tank, the busted fork. He looked at Forge with a half smile. Yeah, she's not done yet. Rebuilding that Harley became Hawk's therapy. Piece by piece, bolt by bolt, he rebuilt himself through rhythm, repetition, craftsmanship. Every night, he walked back into a warm house and whispered, another day down. Another day standing. Winter loosened its grip by February. Snow melted into muddy slush along River Rouge sidewalks. Hawk now walked with steadier steps, shoulders less tense. People in the neighborhood waved when he passed kids delivering newspapers, a retiree sweeping her porch, a bus driver who honked each morning. He wasn't invisible anymore. One evening, Eli and Alyssa invited him to dinner. Alyssa hugged him like family, tears threatening when she placed a homemade meal in front of him. Eli raised a glass. To the man who saved my entire world. Hawk shook his head. I just stepped in. Anybody would have. Eli smiled sadly. That's the thing, brother. Not everybody would. They talked late into the night, military stories, childhood memories, regrets, hopes. Hawk admitted it was the first home-cooked dinner he'd had in nearly a decade. When he got home, headlights glowed softly outside 3 Avengers waiting to escort him, unasked. Hawk looked at them, then at the house behind him. For the first time since he'd slept under that overpass, he understood something. He had a place in this world again. Spring arrived with a soft warmth Detroit hadn't felt in months. Hawk was sweeping the shop floor when Frank called out, "You got a visitor." Hawk turned and froze. His daughter, Kyla Martinez, stood in the doorway. Early 30s now, neat medical scrubs, eyes shimmering with 1,000 unspoken words. "I saw the news," she whispered. "Dad, I didn't know how bad things got." Hawk's breath hitched. He braced one hand on the workbench to stay steady. "I didn't want you seeing me like that." Kayla closed the distance and hugged him before he could react. "You saved that woman. You always protected people. I should have been there to protect you." The shop went silent. Even Miles stepped outside respectfully. Hawk trembled, an old soldier trying not to break. They talked for hours at a metal table near the parts shelves. Kyla apologized, explained her fear, her guilt, how she drifted because she didn't know how to help. Hawk admitted his own shame got by the time she left. Father and daughter had exchanged numbers and something deeper. A bridge had been rebuilt, plank by plank dot, as summer neared. The Avengers decided Hawk deserved one more gift, something symbolic, something personal. Forge, Duke, Knox, and 20 others came to Frank's shop carrying crates, wrapped bundles, and a covered metal frame. "Hawk," Knox said, "you rebuilt us when you saved Alyssa. Time we rebuilt something for you." They unveiled a fully restored 2008 Harley-Davidson Road King, jet black with deep maroon striping and a custom tank emblem, a bald eagle carrying a medic's cross. The chrome gleamed like a mirror. The seat was embroidered with one word HAWK. The entire bike had been rebuilt by Avengers chapters across 5 states. One crew powder-coated the frame. Another rebuilt the engine. Another stitched the seat by hand. Hawk stepped forward, fingers trembling as he touched the tank. You built this for me?" Forge nodded. "A soldier should ride a machine worthy of him." Hawk swallowed hard. "Brothers, I haven't owned anything in years. And now you hand me this?" Knox placed a hand on his shoulder. "We're not handing it to you, Hawk. We're returning it. You earned this the moment you stood between Alyssa and that knife." The next weekend, they held a ride in Hawk's honor. Not small, not local, a full state run from Detroit to Traverse City and back, nearly 400 miles. Over 500 bikers from the Avengers showed up, engines rumbling like rolling thunder across. I-75 got Hawk rode in the center column, Road King humming beneath him like a living heartbeat. Wind cut across his jacket. His eyes watered not from speed, but from the realization that he wasn't watching the world pass by from the outside anymore. He was part of it again. Families waved from overpasses. Veterans saluted as the convoy passed rest stops. A state trooper even gave a quiet thumbs up as they rolled by Dot at a lakeside rest break. Hawk stood alone on the sand for a moment, letting the wind calm the tremor in his hands. Knox joined him quietly. "Feels different up here, doesn't it?" Hawk nodded slowly. "I used to wonder if my story was over. Turns out it was just waiting for a new chapter." Knox smiled. "Brother, your story only just got wheels." They rode back before dusk, 500 engines escorting one veteran home. 6 months after the attack, Hawk's life had stabilized into something he'd stopped believing existed. Mornings at the shop, evenings on his porch, calls with Kayla twice a week, sometimes more. VA appointments finally being kept. Meals that weren't from convenience stores. A life built piece by piece, steady, grounded, wheeled. One afternoon, an envelope arrived in the mail addressed simply, "To the veteran who saved me." Inside was a handwritten letter and a photo. It was Alyssa smiling, holding a newborn wrapped in a blue blanket. Meet Oliver Rain Mason. Born healthy, safe, alive. Because of you. Hawk sank into his couch, holding the picture like something sacred. He remembered that night, the panic, the blade, the instinct. Now, here in his hands was the proof that one act of courage could echo into generations. He placed the photo on his mantel next to the Harley keys. 2 reminders, one of the life he'd saved, one of the life he'd regained outside. 2 Avengers cruised slowly past his house, just checking in. Hawk smiled softly. He wasn't living alone anymore. He was living protected. The first snowfall of December dusted the neighborhood white. Hawk stood on his porch, scarf wrapped tight, coffee mug steaming. He looked across the quiet street, remembering the bridge he once called home. Remembering nights of cold concrete, the rattle of passing cars, the crushing weight of believing no one cared if he lived or died. Now he stood in front of his own housewarming, safe, filled with purpose. A job he enjoyed. A daughter back in his life. Friends who rode beside him. A brotherhood that refused to let him fall back into the shadows. Knox pulled up on his Harley, snowflakes settling on his vest. Morning, Hawk. Ready for the Christmas charity ride? Hawk finished his coffee and nodded. Yeah. You mind if we stop by the bridge before we head out? Knox's expression softened. Of course. Minutes later, they rode beneath the same overpass where Hawk once slept. Hawk looked up quietly and whispered, "Never again." Knox revved his engine gently. "Never again, brother." They rode off into the cold morning. 1 veteran who gave everything, and 500 bikers who made sure he'd never walk alone again. Some heroes never ask for recognition, yet their courage reshapes entire lives. Hawk's story reminds us that one act of bravery can ripple into a lifetime of redemption, brotherhood, and hope. If this story moved you, subscribe, tap the like button, and ring the bell to ride with us for more true-hearted biker stories.